guy characters are still kind of
I think
folded a bit.
the biggest sickness in America, just after measles, is just this absolute malignant self-interest.
Yeah.
That it's like a fucking epidemic. I have no idea. But it's like self-interest. It's not even self-interest. It's something else, because you can act in a self-interested way without maliciously destroying everybody else around about you, because what they're actually doing is not helping them. It's hurting them. It's like the white supremacist thing of like, oh, I don't actually want to do anything to help white people. I just want to make sure that everybody who's not white is hurting more than we are, even if it hurts us. Yeah, it's like that, but
it's
everybody.
It's an arrogant selfishness. I think that was one thing that kind of bugged me most when I watched that Oval Office interview, and probably it's why it plays so badly over here, is that apart from just them being wrong and being ignorant, they were just exceptionally rude.
Yeah.
And they were just not generous to somebody who is speaking their third language. And that just really wound me up so much. Just that they're just... That rudeness. I know this kind of seems petty and stupid considering the kind of amount of stuff that's going on, what they were talking about. But that just...
This guy...
I made me so angry, actually, that as soon as I finished watching that, I went and donated some money to the Ukrainian military. I was just like so raging about it.
I was on the train home, and my train notoriously has these big black spots of no sort of like cellular coverage at all.
All trains in this country. It's just
particularly diagnosed. I mean, because I've got one of the phones that can connect to satellites in emergencies, and like the satellite comes on every journey. Like, I'm all right, I'm not dying, but there's fucking no signal. And I've got.
You don't use the really reliable ScotRail Wi-Fi?
No, because it doesn't work for the same reason. Because it's actually.
What a wonderfully well thought idea that was.
Yeah. But so I'm on the train now, and I get a text message from my husband going, fuck, and then that's about 3 minutes before I can get any more, and it's like, Zelensky is arguing with Trump and Vance in the Oval Office live on TV. Oh, fucking what?
I know. Well, I was also on the train home and saw the headlines before I could access the video, and from what I was seeing reported initially, it was like as if Zelensky had blown up.
Yeah.
Not actually exploded, but it's if he had an attack.
It wasn't big exploded. I just thought, Zelensky's punched the breast.
Well, it's like, honestly, the way that it was initially being reported, and they all changed the tune, but the way it was initially reported before I watched it was as if Zelensky had gone in.
I wonder, because I said earlier on the podcast about how he handled it so well because he made it impossible to edit, which is such like this is very pro wrestling because it's so visually driven, that what typically happens in the BBC is the footage is playing in the background and the narrator is leading the audience. This is how you're going to interpret this image. But there's no way you can misinterpret all these fat, stupid, rude, ugly Americans around this guy who's sat in the middle going, that's all your fucking problem.
And bear in mind again,
he
is a TV guy.
He knew. So he knows how to work a camera.
Yeah.
So exactly. So what I'm saying is that when you're saying about the narrative, it instantly was, we have to try and spin this and try and make this work, but they just knew that there is no way, there's no still frame of this, there's no video footage of this, and that is because Zelensky knew how to handle that so well. So you're right about, it's not his first language and all this, but just like the simple, it's like when you actually have someone that knows how to fucking Laura Special, just get good. Just get good. Just do, like, he's so good at all of it. And then you're surrounded by guys that they didn't have the brain to know how to properly work a camera to tell a visual story.
Yeah.
And he got that, and he should be credited.
That line at the end from Trump, this is going to make great television.
And that was the reveal.
Just like, oh, for fuck's
yeah, I mean, it's
sake.
like he can't help but tell the truth. And that was what it was, the wink, and that's going to make great television. He fucking knew what he was doing. That was all his stuff.
But even all that cruelty and the bullying, that all plays to his base.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they don't care about that. That is who it's for. But it just so happened that this time he couldn't quite get away with it the way he usually does, because it's usually just domestic. This was foreign policy. This is something we're all very fucking invested in.
Yeah.
And I do think that there is an argument that could be made that he did what he did to force Ukraine into a corner where Ukraine now has no choice but to come back and make a deal, which looks like that's maybe going to happen, and it's going to be more favourable to Russia than what we would want. But Trump's doing press conferences going, well, unfortunately, Russia holds all the cards. It's like,
Because of you.
you fucking gave them to him. You're giving them to him right now by saying that. It's to reveal something. Russia was bombing the fuck out of Ukraine.
I know, they were using fucking donkeys on the front line, the Russians. They are fucked. They've got a fucking time bomb coming with the fact that they've got no young men left.
Yeah.
The interest rate's over 20%.
Yeah. They were fucked. They were on the edge. And this is where I'm going to criticize Biden, because they should have fucking had so much more. The Ukrainians could have already have won by now if we'd just fucking given them everything.
Yeah.
They should have had the attackums fucking straight away.
Yeah.
You could also criticise Biden for not fucking dealing with Netanyahu, because that's all. The same day that Trump cut off aid to Ukraine, they gave $3.4 billion to Israel for emergency funds to Israel and arms. And it's like, explain that, all the isolationists, anti-war.
I think this is the thing that it does make me. I had this years ago when I was thinking about like religion, about how the kind of the goody God bit is a bit confusing to me, and I'm going like, I don't. That seems a little bit wishful thinking, but there is evil like this that exists in the world that does make me go, maybe there actually is a kind of just evil like that, because this is so, when you're sitting there like, what is the through thread of logic in any of this? Like, what is the ideal, what is anything driving that? Because it just seems like just sheer cruelty for cruelty's sake.
So this is where you have to understand that other people don't think and feel the way you do, and it's really, really difficult. You keep seeing people trying to make appeals almost to Trump, but this will do this. But doing this then will cause this terrible thing to happen. If he cared about any of those things, he wouldn't be the person that he clearly fucking is. He is rancid.
But why does he care about Israel though?
He doesn't care about Israel. He likes Netanyahu because Netanyahu's a cunt like him.
Did you not see his video that he posted where he's got
Gaza
a huge
Trump.
golden statue?
No, right now, to be fair, the best bit about this is that actually that was made as satire by a Palestinian, and that had been circulating as a joke amongst Palestinians on social media, and Trump saw it and thought that somebody had made it like for him and posted it on his own account. Do you know what? Because he's got no fucking sense of humour.
That's Salmon thinking that you were a hot young woman who thought he was great. That's the thing.
It's exactly the same thing.
I was about to say though about why does he like Netanyahu? But I'm wondering, is it also, are they looking up, like they've just flattened Palestine pretty much? So are they thinking this is a property development opportunity?
Yeah.
As well, because I just was like,
They have wanted that fucking.
because see that's what I was looking at the through threads. Like, what is the motivation? Because like, unless there is that kind of nuance to it, it really is just cruelty for cruelty's sake. They're not like, Trump doesn't care about Jews. He just, he doesn't care about the concept of a holy land or anything like this. So like, what is driving that connection? And it really just is power and money.
This isn't a spontaneous. Like Jared Kushner was looking into seafront Gaza property literally years ago. Even
You wonder if that like if you, when all this is said and done, if actually when that's properly pulled back in the timeline, if before even the scale of destruction had started, there were already conversations of like, we could just flatten the place and turn it into.
They've had that plan.
Yes,
They've had that
I
plan
think
for
the
years.
more confusing thing to me is why the Democrats were so pro Israel.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say that my theory is that Mossad and people who used to work for Mossad, who now work for private security firms of various sorts, have been doing the world's filth for decades, and they have got photographs, receipts, recordings of absolutely every cunt from every party, like in every Western alliance, and nobody is actually brave enough to.
it's just so bizarre.
Like, tape is real.
When I think about like there are things that I've done in my life that I wouldn't want to be shared with my gran, but if it was the choice of my gran seeing my tits and like,
even if there was though, like, would you not still morally have to weigh that up? So like,
what level of confidence could you possibly have on me?
Yeah, but like, but let's see that there was.
Yeah.
Like, is it not like, okay, this is a career ender if this gets out, but my moral choices.
Yes, but we're back to me how to explain this again. That for you, that's a moral choice, but these people don't have any moral. They only have
We're saying this
themselves.
about the Democrats, as that's the thing. Is we're not really referring to complicated.
This is a uniparty thing, like the support of Israel. They will always support Israel because they want a foothold in the Middle East. They want basically a stationary, like, missile silo.
Yeah, it is effectively if like Western and non-Muslim.
That's what they want. Biden said years ago, if Israel didn't exist, we would have to create an Israel. They want that there for them.
Even
that as an American says in the Middle East.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, but that's quite like we've talked about, like, America's always been shite. Like, that is there. That's it. Is basically because what we're saying is that, yeah, these people are lacking so much in moral character that even if there was like you probably could be able to go and get a regular job, but you can't be a public figure anymore. If you had a scandal or something was dug up on that level, you wouldn't take that hit. You would say, I just keep the genocide going. Actually, you're basically accepting you're going to be part of a kind of a death machine in effect.
And again, you have to be somebody that, in order to care, you have to be somebody that understands that everybody's life is of equal value to yours. And there just aren't. And I know it's really, really difficult to get your head around the unpleasantness of some other people. Some other people are really, really unpleasant.
Yeah. I just think in the scale of it is the thing that's...
You're thinking like you.
But it's also like when there's been quite a lot of appeals to Churchill and Churchill apology. Like over the last few days, because of JD Vance's comments, lots of otherwise quite liberal / lefty commentators have been appealing to, what would Churchill think about all this? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I know yous are trying to make a point, but who the fuck cares? He was an evil psychopath. If you're listening to this and you don't understand why Churchill is one of the worst fucking people who's ever lived, Google pictures of the Bengal famine. Google the words Bengal famine vultures. And you're going to have to unfilter some of the images because they will be safe filtered because they are horrific. If you can look at those pictures and understand that our governmental policy directly contributed to that happening, and Churchill was quoted as saying that Indians were not human, they were beasts.
Yeah.
I don't fucking care how much this riles up the modern day patriotism of Gammons to go against Trump and Brexit. I don't care. Fuck that. Fuck doing any kind of apology for Churchill. He was one of the worst cunts ever lived.
It's really it's a problem in terms of how we're taught history, because the reality of World War II, it's kind of a Godzilla threshold situation where, because he was unpopular before the war and after, just because Hitler was somehow even worse. So it's like we now, on this occasion, we normally don't like Godzilla, but because the bigger monsters turned up, we need you to go and fight him.
And this is the thing,
basically.
All of that's true. You can understand all that, and as I am, and I do understand all that, still be glad that Churchill was in charge during the war
For that reason.
because what was required was a cunt.
Yeah, we needed
they
need a bigger cunt.
Yeah.
But so just for a bit more sort of background, more people died during the Bengal famine as a result of the famine. More people starved to death in the streets than British soldiers who died in both world wars combined. Yeah. There were more, just absolutely horrific. Real, I actually the images are just like, you cannot look at those and be the same person you were before you saw him.
So I think we're tracking the same point here, because this is what we're saying about the sort of nature of evil, I guess. But what you're saying there about the Democrats are just as bad as the Republicans in terms of you know what I mean? But
they're not as bad because they managed to they managed to be like there's a few that you genuinely believe that they believe what they say, but a lot of them, they're only Democrat because of what fucking state they were born in.
Oh.
Yeah.
But what we're saying here is that we're lying to ourselves about the narrative. So it's like basically the narrative objectively is Churchill was a terrible bastard. It's Godzilla threshold rules. The Democrats are just as guilty of the Republicans at turning a blind eye to things that morally they should take a stand about. But that's totally sideways from the narrative that's coming out of the telly, where Churchill is someone we should, whenever some of this happens, we should think, what would Churchill do? Which is, of course, not what you should be thinking at all. You don't say this about Godzilla, but the Democrats are sort of still framed as, well, they're just not doing anything, which is kind of true, but they should probably be getting more heat, if you know what I mean. It's kind of going beyond that. It's like your inaction on so much.
But it's not just inaction, it's action. The action that they take. Israel could not have achieved, if you can call it an achievement, which I'm sure they do, what they have without the direct, full-bodied support of the American government. Two international courts want Netanyahu for war crimes, and the Americans have vetoed it. They vetoed NATO. Like they are standing in the way. They are standing staunch with Israel, and that would be the same regardless of who got into the White House. That is a uniparty policy that they are not going to move from.
It's the same with Saudi Arabia. I mean, the constant support for Saudi Arabia. I mean, after 9/11, which was. What was the nationality of the bombers?
I forget, it doesn't matter. Let's move on. Anyway, slap it out Iraq.
Where did we... I didn't actually have any issue with going into Afghanistan because Afghanistan was where a lot of the training was going on and there was a reasonable excuse for doing that. But Iraq was just absolute horseshit.
Hey, Dad, don't you know those Saudi guys? Aren't you doing all your oil business with them?
This is where the Michael Moore film Fahrenheit 9/11 is fantastic. He points out, that the fucking members of the Bin Laden family were getting fucking flight. The only flights that were going out of America. The only flights that were going out of America were private jets fucking taking members of the Saudi royal family and the fucking Bin Ladens out.
It's the good news, not it's maybe that we're finally seeing this. So now even just us talking about this on a podcast for what it's worth is different. Like that, I think now is becoming more of the feeling that like Churchill was probably quite a bad guy, and now the Democrats have had that kind of protective layer, that shield. They've kind of been exposed. I think actually what's happened in Israel it's made that almost impossible to try and recover the narrative of like, oh, but we're the good guys. And I think this is, you feel like either it's all going to go to shit and there's going to be a big fucking rumble, we're all going to have another war, or we're just going to break through the kind of threshold into this newer space where we're going to have some of these problems again, but it might be harder to be like sleek it in the way they've been up until now, maybe.
But I don't think that that's any better because Trump and that are not even trying to be sleek it. They don't have to. They're not acting like people who think they're ever going to have to win an election again.
Yeah, that's the bit that worries me most.
Yeah. But with the Democrats, before this recent election, there had already been a huge sea change in the attitudes towards Israel-Palestine because we have the images now. It's not a media-controlled narrative that's coming out of a news channel that everybody sits around and watches and goes, oh, I guess those brown people are all savages and need to be taken care of. They're all terrorists. People were going, I'm seeing
dead children.
Parents carrying the severed arm of one of their children with a white cloth gathered up into a bag with bloodstains on it, carrying the remains of the rest of their child. I'm seeing that. What's your justification again? And then you see the Israelis
in that hospital car park.
But then you see the Israelis and the whole narrative about, oh, Jews, they control the media, they're very sneaky and they're expert at this. It's like, well, why is Israeli propaganda so fucking dog shit? Obvious dog shit. It's the worst propaganda I've ever seen. How's anybody buying this? It completely puts paid to all of those anti-Semitic narratives that like the Jews are these like evil masterminds controlling the behind the curtain. It's like, no, they're all fucking look, they're as thick as the rest of these. Their propaganda is shit. So people are all seeing that. A lot of liberal, left-leaning Democrat voters were outraged and appalled and horrified. And then when Kamala said, oh no, I'm not going to change any of my stance towards Israel, the same as Joe, lots of people did not come out to vote.
Yeah.
Lots of people publicly, loudly said, I will not go out to vote. I will not support a party. I will not reward a candidate who cannot even stand up and say this is a genocide. I want a ceasefire, because you have all of the power. You want to talk about who's holding the cards? It's America. You're holding the cards, and you are promoting and enabling the genocide of a country whose average age was 15 before the bombing started. It's mostly children. It's like 80% children in Gaza. And that's what you're doing. So we're not going to vote for you. And then they didn't. And then Trump got in, and he's going to somehow make this the worst thing that's ever happened worse.
Basically, the whole of America it's taking the InfoWars business model for their whole political system of like, they don't want critical thinkers involved. So they've dwindled down the voter base to just any mark that hasn't worked any of this out yet. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, it's just getting it down to like a tiny minority that are still lying to themselves that this is going to make a difference, because the whole thing is just fucked. And that actually suits the structure. It doesn't suit that there's a mass turnout of like well-educated voters coming in that are able to see through this stuff. They've dwindled it down to very, I'm a Democrat for life, I'm a Republican, and regardless of what my party does, overlooking genocide, that's fine with me, I'll just stick to what I always do. That completely suits them. I don't know how sustainable that is, but I think at the moment they've been riding that for a long time now. That feels like going back to kind of Bush-Obama era stuff, to me, that I think that when I'm talking about breaking through that threshold, that's what I'm saying. Like, kind of, does this mean this is going to kind of crumble? Is this a kind of end of the Soviets type scenario that all comes down and then something else comes up in its place?
I mean, it very much feels like they're speedrunning the end of an empire, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which would fact, because like everyone blames the fall of the Roman Empire on women getting rights, and I feel like if it happened, it would be like, what was those transes? The transes took out America.
Be the trans mice.
Yeah, it was definitely the trans mice.
Just that meme of the girl with a burning house in the background, just like all these trans people, like, yeah, we did it, that was all us. They should be proud of that, if that is the case, by the way.
Well, no, that's what I mean. Rome did not fall because women got rights, and America is not failing. Their economy is not tanking because trans people exist. That bill that they just passed to stop trans kids participating in sports, do you know how many people that's affected? Let me tell you. 10 out of 500,000 student athletes across 3 divisions. 10 students now can't play sports.
Aye. Well, that was worth everybody's time then.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It's just telling other trans kids, you shouldn't exist. You have no place here. You should not exist. That is the message. That is the reason they've made this.
It's virtue signaling.
It's literally virtue signaling.
Well, it's lack of virtues.
Virgin time.
Those 10 trans kids will rise up after the American Empire falls. They'll be the phoenix that rise from the ashes into the bold new genderless world.
I think we need to arm the trans Americans.
Yeah. They seem to be like...
I'm the birds. I'm the chick.
Yeah.